Anyway, so string.
Yep. Let's do it.
What I do with mine, these are what I've been using. If I'm not using elixirs, which are great, but they feel a little silky to me. There's a feel to them, which is, it's just fine. And they seem a little bright to me. They feel a little sparkly to me. And what changes the sound of the strings is what they're made out of. Like we talked about the electric strings and how, the stainless steel ones are like bitey as anything, and the ones that are nickel wrapped are warmer, and the ones that are pure nickel are really warm, really warm, relatively warm, which is what I like. I like something kind of down in the middle because it gives a nice balance. So these are phosphor bronze, D'Addario, which I like D'Addario acoustic stuff, electric stuff too, actually. But there's actually a thing on the back where it shows, I don't know if you can see it, where it shows you like a scale of brightness, where things are. This is sort of, the flat top strings are, sort of in the middle. And these are phosphor bronze, which are sort of bright. And then 80-20 bronze, which is sort of an alloy. They're really bright. And some people really love that. They love that sparkle and it gets all the harmonics and everything. I'm sort of, I like that sort of middle ground. And in fact, if you listen to like old Bob Dylan records and things like that, they didn't change strings back then. So if they're playing along, the strings are absolutely dead. I mean, there's no harmonics, there's nothing coming out of it. It's just like you get the note and nothing else. And I find a certain charm to them. They're almost like percussive, because there's nothing sparkling and ringing. It's just the sound of that and maybe the sound of the pick, hitting the strings. So I don't like them really sparkling. So anyway, what I do with this, let me step back so you can see and get all my equipment. You need one of these, so regular wire cutters. And you don't need one of these, but they're nice to have so you don't get like carpal tunnel, like winding the thing all up. Plus, there's a little notch in the top of them, you can see, and that's for pulling the pins out. So when you go to take the pins out, you pop them out that way, because otherwise it's a pain in the neck to get them out. So these are, $5 on Amazon or Sweetwater, one of those. I mean, they're totally worth it, and they last forever. You get one and you'll have it for the rest of your life. So what I do when I'm going to change them, and I do this with electrics too, I don't, as a general rule, I don't take all the strings off and then do it, because it's nice when you put them on, you have one string or a couple of strings as sort of a reference, just so you can tune up sort of generally to that, and then you can sort of pull them out. This one also, this particular guitar, you can see where the bridge is split in the middle.
Yeah.
So they're actually two pieces of saddle. So this guitar is an interesting guitar. It's a Rose. It's made by this guy in Nashville named Jonathan Rose, and I actually bought this on our honeymoon. We went to Nashville on our honeymoon, and I bought this guitar on our honeymoon. I bought this on my Telecaster on our honeymoon. I bought two guitars on our honeymoon because I wanted something with a B bender, which is this mechanical contraption that I just love, because it's a guy named Clarence White from the Byrds invented it, and I just love that for playing country. But this guy was known for making guitars with that thing in it, right? So we go to his shop, and it's in Hendersonville, which is like a little north of Nashville.
Yeah, it's Hendersonville, Tennessee. Okay.
Hendersonville, Tennessee. And he's got customers in the store, and he's just doing repairs and things like that. And he's got guitars. So we're just wandering around the shop waiting for him. Not a big shop. And I'm looking at all the acoustic guitars down there, and it's like Gibson, Martin, Gibson, Martin, Rose. I said, Rose, huh? It must be his guitar. And I take it down, and it's essentially a D28. It's rosewood side and back, spruce top, dreadnought size, sort of a narrow neck. The fret is a little narrow this way. It's almost like a Guild guitar, which was sort of noted for having slightly narrower necks. It's more narrow than sort of a standard Martin. Martins are bigger, Gibsons are bigger, which fits my hand really well. It's like the really early Stratocasters had a slightly narrower neck, which I also really like. It lays in my hands really well. So for me, it's a good answer. But for some reason, the way the braces were shaved inside, because it's all a handmade guitar, I strummed it and it just sounded sparkly. It just sounded sort of alive. I thought, that's awesome. So I went out to the car and bought the guitar and I said, okay, I'm trading this. And, so I think I got it for like my other guitar and $200, something like that. But it's a great guitar. You know, it's just, it sounds really, really good. It's been really reliable. But the story with him is, I cracked it one time. It was, the old house was really dry, and it cracked right here along the fretboard, you know, the top. So I took it down to him, and he, you know, what they do is they glue it and they put little braces underneath, little blocks of wood to sort of stabilize it. And it's not as good as it not being cracked, but you can repair the cracks, and they're pretty much, they don't really matter. So I did that, and then the second time, the other side cracked, because again, the house was really dry. So that cracked there, and so I'm trying to find him online, and I'm looking, and I can't find him anywhere. I can't find the shop, and you know, it's Jonathan Rose Music. It's in Hendersonville. There's nothing there. I'm looking all over the place. I'm looking all. I finally gave up. And as I was researching later on, so what about this guy? You know, because you see a lot of the electrics. He had these sort of like custom, like 3 pickup Telecasters with features in them, and maple, and you know, pretty guitars, really nice looking guitars. Not so many acoustics. You know, I'd never seen another acoustic. I've only seen one other acoustic, and not this style, a different style, but it was played by Merle Haggard. Merle Haggard had a Rose acoustic, which is sort of weird. But anyway, I'm looking to find out, so what happened to this guy? You know, like it's just closed up and disappeared. Apparently, as you dig that back deep into the story of some of these blogs and you know, bulletin boards, apparently he was like some sort of like ne'er-do-well, like something big in the cocaine trade. There was some sort of like something skeevy about what was going on with him. I'm not sure what, but apparently he just like one night packed up the shop and left town. You know, just like disappeared. Never been heard from since. Never heard from since. And you know, people have repair guitars in there. They have stuff. You know, so this was like litigated for months before they could get their stuff back, and all this. You know, who's responsible for what? And do you really own it? Did you pay for it? Did you not pay for it? Because you know, the records were sort of spotty. So he's widely hated in Nashville. You know, there's some guy, I remember, the quote I remember was, I don't care if Leo Fender came down from heaven and sprinkled, you know, holy water on his guitar, I wouldn't play one of those pieces of shit from that asshole. He's like, you know, he can go, rah, 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 rah. It's like,
wow.
So yeah, he's like widely hated. But anyway, it's a great guitar. So,
but
so
you
here's
like,
what I,
yeah.
Go ahead. So
I was going to say that's quite a story. And you met him buying
yeah,
his guitar?
met him, absolutely. Yeah, met him, and you know, met a couple of times. You know, we did this and we talked about his guitar. And then he didn't have any of the guitars with the B bender in it, but there's another store across town that did, and that's the one that I bought. So I do have the Telecaster with the B bender, which I've had ever since too. So, and that's how great a person Missy Johnston is. That we go on our honeymoon and she would let me buy 2 guitars. That's how good Missy Johnston is. So, so here's what I do when I'm going to change the strings. What I'll do is I'll change the top 6 and then the top 3 and then the bottom 3. Okay. Just to sort of keep
if you want to.
No, I was going to do it anyway, so just, you know, I'll show you how I do it. So, yeah, that's going to help me. Because I've been meaning to do this for a while, so this is a good opportunity. So I just sort of spool them out that way. You can't really quite see. So I spool them out that way and just sort of, you know, sort of lift them off.
Yeah. And you usually go low to high?
I usually go low to high. In terms of taking them off, just because that's the one that's closest to my hand. There's no magic to it.
Okay.
So. The other thing about this guitar is it has an ebony fingerboard rather than a rosewood fingerboard, which is a harder wood. It's kind of unusual to have that on an acoustic guitar, but it makes it a little brighter because the wood is harder. So it's got a little more bite to it, which I like. Oh. So I've got the strings are off. Okay.
Yep.
And then I'll use this to take the pins out for a time. And the thing about the pins is they're just press fit in there. So what people will do sometimes when they're stringing a guitar up like this is they'll take these pins and they'll whack them in there really, really hard. You don't need to do that because the tension of the string holds the pin in place and it's fine. And if you do that and you whack them in there really hard, A, you can't get them out And B, there's a possibility that you could actually crack the bridge plate. And I've seen that happen, which is like a pain in the neck to repair. So here's my 3 strings. So, and I used to keep these because I figured, well, I might break a string and I'll eventually use them. And I thought to myself, that's really stupid. So I don't do that anymore. So I've got these strings, the phosphor bronze strings. These are the Dario. And I just, cut them open. And they're in, these particular ones come in 3 bundles. They come in the 2 metal ones. These acoustics have 4 wound strings, right? The G string is wound, right? Okay. So there's the top 2, there's the middle 2, there's the heavy 2. And these particular strings, these are, what's the gauge? These are 11 to 52. So they're a little light on the top. 52 is a little on the heavy side on the bottom, which could be a lot of bang, but I'm not bending the strings on the bottom, but I might a little bit on the top. So they feel pretty balanced, okay? If you go to a set of 12s, that's pretty resistant. You go to a set of 13s, you're not bending anything. That's just, you would put a 13 on like a big dreadnought like this, and you're just using it to play bluegrass, and it's like a cannon. It's really loud, really just, you're just banging away, but it's not very nimble, and that's not the way I play. I play more sort of bendy stuff. So this is a good sort of substitute for me. And this will tell you on the package itself. Oops, there we go. The color on the balls on the end are different colors, so it tells you which string goes which, and you can sort of tell just from the weight of it. But it's kind of a nice thing to do that as well, because it's not. I have put the wrong string on the wrong spot.
That's how it was with my Telecaster too. They had colored balls on the end.
Yeah, that's the Dario thing. So I've got this. I'll put it there and try to put it in its place, and it never stays. So then what I do is, so I get to a point where you can see it. I grab one of the pins and I just sort of sit it in here, sit about halfway down, and slide it in. Because what happens is, you want when the pin goes in, it should not. The pin shouldn't be on the end of the string. The pin should be on the end of the ball. It should be up off it, so it's sitting like here, and that's what it's wedging it into the slot. So you kind of have to sort of play with it a little bit, just so it feels about right. And what'll happen too is you'll be, there it is, tuning it up, and it'll kind of go bang, and it'll let go and then get really loose again. So which is fine, because it's finding its spot. So I've got it, and I'm just press fitting. It's just a light press, so it feels solid, and I go up to the top here. And then what I do when I trim it, I usually trim it like 2 tuners worth away from that. So I'll take this and I trim it this way, about here. And then what I'll do is I'll put it through, and I'll put about that much, if you can see.
Yeah, just like a millimeter or 2.
Yeah, like about,
3.
not quite a half an inch through that. Okay. And I'll put that through there, and then wrap this around toward the inside. And then I bend this back this way, so that it's, what you want is, you want it to be bending in the opposite direction. Yeah, because I often do that wrong direction. Bend it against the direction that it's winding. And what happens is then it resists the give. You want to have it bent so that becomes a tension point where it can't pull through.
Okay.
Some people will go, and they'll actually go so far as to take the end of the string and wrap it around underneath it and put it through there like that. That's more than I think you need to do. But the other thing I do when I'm winding it is, as it's sticking through here, I'll wind it, the first wind over the sticking through part, and then the second wind underneath it. So what it does is it grips it this way. Make sense?
From both directions.
in both directions. So it's gripping it from the top and from the bottom. So I do that way, I'm gonna do it underneath that way. And what I find is that makes it pretty stable. So if you can see how it's above and below.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that works really well for me. That's really stable, and I don't have to do that kind of, you know, all that nonsense about wrapping it around and all the rest of that, which is not a bad thing per se, but it's a pain in the neck when you want to take the strings off.
Yeah.
So,
Do you end up having multiple wraps underneath the
yeah,
sticking out
typically,
part?
you know, there'll be, you know, 2-3 wraps underneath. That's that amount that I showed you is kind of a good compromise, that there's enough wrap to keep it stable, but it's not so much wrap that it's hitting the bottom of the tuner.
Yeah.
Because if you start doing that, or it starts over rolling itself, that becomes a little tweaky. So, and then again, I just, you know, about that much. What's sort of interesting, I was reading this article about Eric Clapton. We talk about, you know, people whine all the time about, oh, I got to change my strings. I find changing strings sort of relaxing, really.
Yeah.
And he sort of did too. What he said he used to do, this is way back when he was like a fashion plate, he would go and what he would do before concerts would be he would iron his shirts because he found it just really kind of relaxing. So that's what he did. So then I put on this next pile of strings. And I put them up here, and they always fall down, so it's really bad.
Well, I think there's something about like the active maintenance that can be very soothing and very meditative as well.
It is. It's, I mean, there's a certain meditative part, I guess, or something, a soothing part of knowing that you're sort of doing your due diligence. You're taking care of your gear. That, you know, when you get up on stage or you're getting ready to play, you don't really have to worry about whether everything is going to work because you've taken care of that. So, you know, you're getting ready to play a gig, you change your strings, you change your batteries, you do all that kind of stuff because then you just know you don't have to worry about it. But there's also, as you say, a meditative part of that where, you know, how many times have I changed strings on a guitar? 1,000? I don't know. You know, it's something that I'm very familiar with. It's something I'm very comfortable doing. It's something I really don't even think about. So it is sort of Zen-like in its way. It's just, you know, you just, and I'm just sort of getting them so they're taught. You know, I'm not tuning or anything like that. So I've done that, and then I do the same thing with the other side. You know, I take these all off the backside. And I always have to remind myself, because I usually play electric, and it's not that way on a Strat, that the ones on the bottom are backwards. So you have to sort of watch that.
Right. And are the strings going to stretch out for a little bit at first?
They are. I'm going to show you what I do with that.
Okay.
And there'll be people that'll tell you I do it wrong, which is fine. There's people. The thing about gear is people get really fetishy about it. I mean, they really do. People get like, oh, no, you can't do that because that's wrong. It's like, you know, if it works, it's not wrong. So. And the other thing is, you know, if you did this on a different guitar, it's slightly different. You sort of have to, you know, figure out how to do it. You know, it's all very familiar. And the fact that I'm doing this on a guitar I've done this on for 30 years makes this a really easy process. So there is something nice about doing this. There's something nice about doing it and having it just be clean and fresh and new and ready to go. So, and this one I usually start from, I just keep going across the strings just because, for no good reason other than it seems easy and logical.
Yeah, I feel like I like my current acoustic guitar. I mean, it's a Laguna. I don't think it's a very fancy guitar, but if I wanted to level up my acoustic guitar, would you recommend a Martin or
Oh,
a Fender
yeah.
or Gibson?
I would recommend a Gibson or a Fender in a minute. I wouldn't necessarily recommend a Fender, because that's not really, their acoustics are not really what they're known for. Even something like an Epiphone would be good. The thing about acoustic guitars, the things that really matter with acoustic guitars, depending on how you play and the style of music you want to play, whether you're strumming, whether you're playing finger style, that kind of thing, the type of wood makes a difference. The size of the guitar makes probably a bigger difference. So something like a Martin, like a Dreadnought like this, or even some of the smaller Martins, they're very articulate guitars. They're very, okay, which one is the thin one? That's the thing. They're very responsive. They're very quick on the note. They're very articulate. So when you play them, the notes really sing out. Okay. You don't want that for everything. You want that for a finger picking guitar. You don't necessarily want that for a strumming guitar. You want that for a bluegrass guitar, certainly, because you're soloing. And the nature of the shape of the guitar, the shape of the body, sort of lends itself to that kind of sound. Gibsons, and they have that sort of squared shoulder, right?
Yeah.
Gibsons primarily, although everybody's making different versions of this opposite thing now, but the traditional Gibson acoustic, these sort of round shouldered guitars are not terribly acoustic, not terribly articulate. They're not terribly good solo instruments in that sense, but they're very good strumming guitars. They're very good folk singer guitars, kind of thing. You know, they have a very balanced sound. The notes don't jump out, the chords sort of jump out. They have sort of a softness to them that works for some kind of music really, really well. So there's no right or wrong type of guitar. There's no right or wrong style of construction. It depends on what you want to sound like. And one of the things, I was just reading an article about this very thing. By the way, did you get a copy of Premier Guitar in the mail?
I will have to check. I'll have my roommate check. But
yeah, you will at some point, because I bought you a subscription.
Okay.
There was an article in the magazine talking about this very thing, about, you know, body shapes and what do you want it to do, and why you pick one guitar after another. You know, it was almost like it was about how do you shop for guitars, and part of what lets you do that is, or helps you do that is, well, what kind of guitar do you want? What's the instrument? What's the tool you want? You know, you don't want a crosscut saw if you're doing cabinet work. You know, you want a different kind of saw. So there are different kinds of acoustic guitars, and electric guitars for that matter, that do different things. And there are different body shapes, different neck shapes. You know, finger pickers tend to want a slightly wider neck because they can move their fingers through them a little bit more. If you're playing chords, it doesn't really matter. So what's nice about, you know, we talked a bit about ear training before. It's sort of about instrument training. The more you kind of figure out what you want to do with an instrument and what's going to feel comfortable with you doing that, that pushes you in a direction of a particular kind of instrument away from some other kinds of instruments. So, you know, if you want to play country, Telecaster's brilliant because it's really sharp and really articulate, really bright, and cuts through everything. Yeah. If you want to play something like jazz, not that you can't make a Telecaster do that, and some people do, but you want something that's a lot rounder and warmer sounding. So there's that.
It's me. Is here. You're over your time limit.
No, she's not.
Are you at Emily's?
I am. I'm in the new kitchen, living room, dining room. It's good. Let me see if I can. I'll change my microphone and then you can see everybody.
Okay. And while you're doing that, what I'm doing is, now that I got strings on, now I'm going to tune it to pitch, and then I'm going to stretch. So I'll show you.
There's Emily.
Emily.
Hi.
Hey.
Oh, hold on. Let
Look
me.
at all that light. Wow. Wow. I'm trying to figure out where we are. Like in the
Okay,
house.
so
Can you hear my mom? Okay?
Yes.
okay, so like this is the old dining room. Wait a minute.
Oh my God.
That's the old dining room,
Okay. Wow.
Wow.
and then it opens up into this kitchen.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh my
That's
God.
awesome. Love the chandeliers.
Thanks. And then she'll walk you back to the back of. So this is the.
So where's the stairway up to your?
This is the bar. The
Oh
island.
my gosh! Look at that island. Wow.
Oh, that's
And-
tremendous. That's beautiful.
The sink.
Which is huge.
Love
My
the sink.
God, you could put 3 dogs in there.
Greer cooking.
Hey, Greer.
So did they cover the
Just
window
listen.
that was there
She's
before?
on headphones. And
Did you cover the window over the sink?
Did I what?
The window over the sink. Did
The
you
old
cover
No.
that?
So there's the window over the sink now.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Okay. And the fridge is moved. Okay.
Fridge is
across the
moved.
room.
I see. Okay.
That
So that's
tile
the
is
window.
great.
So when you walk into the room, so this is where you would. This is a new door. So you're walking into
Oh,
this
nice.
door.
Nice.
New door in there. And you
Yeah.
walk in and you see this is going to be another dining area. Just the back steps right there.
There's the
Right.
steps.
Okay. With a new built-in cabinet.
Here is the bar, the
Yeah,
wet
love,
bar.
love the backsplash. Beautiful.
I do love the blacks. Yeah, the tiles.
Yeah,
Great.
tile's awesome.
Wow.
That's so
But
beautiful.
I can't
Em.
wait to see it for real.
Yeah, for real. I can't wait till it's done.
I bet.
And
What's
then
the
you-
what's the projected finish date
oh,
now?
there's no projected.
Just whenever it happens, it'll happen.
Yeah, this is.
Ugh.
I'll probably be in a wheelchair, and then I'll have to expand all the door frames. So this is the living room.
Woo! Wow.
Oh, that's great.
So you're waiting for furniture, I take it.
Waiting for
That's,
her.
so that's the new bathtub there in the middle, right?
Yeah, it's a new cocktail.
So where's the TV gonna be?
It's gonna be on the wall.
Where it was?
And then
No,
this
it's
is
just
my
gorgeous.
new little tribal.
Nice.
entryway. You'll see with your new
Wow. Oh, I
stairwell.
love the new
Yeah,
stair
Love
railing.
the stair railing. It's beautiful.
And this is the same furniture, but with my mural.
That is so great.
That's gorgeous. That's
Is that a
terrific.
wallpaper thing, Mike?
Yeah,
That's really stunning.
it glows at night.
Wow. I think the furniture works fine.
Yeah, the furniture works fine. There's my new chandelier for the hallway. I don't know if you can see it. No,
Kind
There
of.
you go. That's cool.
weird. And then then you walk back here and you're back to the kitchen.
Gosh,
Wow,
And
just
there's the
the whole
kitchen.
thing- It just airs the
that
whole
is
thing out.
gorgeous.
That's really tremendous. And that looks so
Wow.
great. So great.
Thank you.
Wait,
It's
So
been
no
quite.
more formal dining room, just like
No.
Eating
I'll have a
kitchen.
formal table and a more casual table at the other end where the wet bar is.
mhm.
Good.
Beautiful.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Back to
love it.
Grace.
I love it.
Back to
Okay.
Grace.
Back
See
to
you guys
Grace.
in a couple of weeks
Yeah.
or less.
Okay, so we're close. So now new strings on, tuned to pitch, right?
Mhm.
Okay,
The first part. Okay, I'm going.
Okay.
Okay.
It's gonna snow here tonight,
Oh.
Yeah.
maybe.
So they say.
I mean,
So
I'm wearing 2 sweaters.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I know. All right.
Terrible.
Okay, so this will take in the last 2 minutes. So I've got it strung up, fresh strings on it, it's to pitch. And then what I do is I just grab the strings and just stretch them. Just like that. Okay.
Mhm.
That was, and there are people that'll say, oh, you shouldn't do that because it doesn't stretch them evenly, stretch them aside. No. You can sort of see when strings start going bad is if you look at the strings and you can see them sort of doing this sort of sine wave thing.
Mhm.
And we can see that thing sort of oscillate. It means the core is weird. It's like change the strings, you just fix them that way. So, but anyway, yeah, just sort of stretch them out this way. Not really hard, but enough that you can actually feel them give a little bit. You want to be a little more delicate when you get here to the top strings. I have done this on my electric and snapped the E string off more than once, just by stretching. I was like pop, and it's like, oh crap, I'm gonna go back and redo it. So So you do that and then you just retune it. So from there, that took that E down to about a step and a half, down to slightly below D sharp. It'll take the high strings down about a step. It'll take the E string down a couple of steps usually. Yeah, G is down a whole step. E was down 2 steps. D was down to C. E was down to C. And there's going to be a little bit of, you have to sort of tune them up several times because the whole instrument is in balance. So if you tighten something up here, it loosens what there. I noticed there's sort of bang on it for a while. You go on Pete Townsend on it, you know.
Definitely. So that's, I mean, they're going to continue to stretch out a little bit maybe as you're
They
playing.
will stretch out a little bit for, you know, for a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll get, that stretching really stabilizes them pretty quickly. You know, they change strings in concerts. You know, most bands change the strings before every show. And the guys, the techs are back there stretching them and tuning them, stretching them and tuning them until they sort of stabilize. And they stabilize. This is fairly stable now. I mean, that little bit of stretching, this is, I would play, I would walk out on stage with this right now. You know, watch it between songs. And if you're doing a lot of, that, even that, I'm not. Yeah, it's pretty stable. It's not really, it was pretty much to pitch. So the other thing about it, when you tune, and I probably mentioned this earlier, you always want to be tuning up into the string. So you loosen it and then tune up into the note rather than tuning down to the note, because if you do that, there's some residual looseness here and it'll just let go and then it'll go out of tune. So you always tune up and tighten into the string. And if you do that and you've stretched them out well and you've wound them tightly here, and these are, tightly here, then it holds together pretty well. So it's not a complicated thing to do. It's just, a handful of small steps. And if you do them well and consistently, it works every time. So easy as that. And the same thing with doing, the electric strings. Your tuners on the electrics are just like this with the hole through them.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The old Fenders had this like a hole in the middle and you stick them in there and you have to wind. Those are a little trickier, but for what you have, yes, it's the exact same process. You string them up, you tune it up to pitch, you stretch them out, you tune it up again, you stretch them out, you tune it up again, and bang on it for a while. And it falls into pitch relatively quickly. It's not a complicated thing. So, and that, that's, as long as we're playing in pitch, we're halfway there. That's
definitely,
that's kind of the deal. So, yeah. So, and you did your Telecaster, that worked out okay, right?
I did not do the once on the top and 2 below. I did like 2 or 3 below.
Yeah, but how you do 2 or 3 below? That's probably enough winds. That's going to be sufficient. So,
okay. Well,
you see some people do it like from the end of the string, and they'll wind it, and there'll be like 16 winds on the thing, and it's like, no,
yeah.
Do it. Does it matter that it's neat and clean looking? No. Is it nice that it's neat and clean looking? Yeah, it is nice that it's neat and clean looking.
I bought a pack of 3, so if I lose one from that, I can swap them out.
Strings are cheap. I used to, when I was playing with the Zydeco band, I would break my E string every gig. I would just, because I was ripping so hard with that stuff because it's just banging away. I would break the E string, and plus there was a little like edge under the bridge that was just breaking the same spot every time. You know, you just sometimes if you're playing a lot, then you change your strings regularly. You know, it's one of those things that you do. If you're not playing regularly, you know, you're playing just, you know, like playing in the bedroom, that kind of thing. Like I do with my acoustic, I don't play this a ton. You know, I'll change these every few months. My electric with the strings I use these New York XLs, which are a little more durable. I like them. If I'm not using those, I use those pink early balls that I told you about. These ones, they seem slightly more stable. I'm not really attacking the guitar the way I used to so much. So I'll probably change them every third gig, something like that. But I haven't broken a string in a long time. So that's, I think partly the strings are made better than they used to be, but I think you don't have to lean into it quite so hard to get the sound you want. I mean, you lean into it a little bit, but you just, you know, as you play longer, your touch gets better, you know, and there might've been some things that were causing you to hit it a certain way that was breaking them or whatever. But yeah, no, I haven't really broken a string in a gig in years, 10 years probably. So, but I'm also careful, like we talked about, you know, do your due diligence. You know, if I've had the guitar and I haven't changed the strings in a month, it's like, it's a new gig. I'm just gonna put a fresh, you know, it costs you $6 to put a set of strings on. It's not a big deal, you know. So it's worth doing that, just as, you know, because it's worse than, you know, I'd rather spend the $6 or $7 or $8 to put a fresh set on than be in the middle of the gig and break a string and then have to deal with that, you know. So it's the price you pay to do it, you know, cleanly and productively. So anyway, that's kind of it. It's pretty straightforward.